Hi everyone, it's Alex and welcome back to my channel, and happy Thanksgiving, but if you're not in America, happy Thursday. Happy Thirsty Thursday. Keeping the spirit of Halloween alive forever in my heart forever, I don't care if it's Thanksgiving, we are going to be talking about another haunted place that I have been to. So today we are going to be talking about the Bell Witch, which is located somewhere out in the middle of fucking no man's land in Tennessee. It's pretty much where it's at. But how the fuck did I ever hear about this haunting since I'm in Ohio/Indiana? Mostly Ohio at the time when I saw this. But so I actually watched a movie called The Bell Witch Haunting, which was the one that was made in 2013. I actually did watch it in 2013 when it was produced and everything. It was on Netflix. I still don't know if it's on Netflix, but this is where I came to the Bell Witch knowledge. And it said it was based off of a true story. So, knowing me, I had to look it up, and it's located somewhere in Tennessee. And then the next year, in 2014, my family and I went to Nashville, Tennessee. And I think it was either half an hour to an hour drive outside of Nashville. But after going to the Cavalier Hotel, I'm like, alright, so I kind of want to find local haunted places that I can go to whenever we go to on vacation, and that's the Cavalier kind of like struck that. So in Nashville, I convinced my parents that we should go see the Bell Witch Cave, because it's a cave, it's on a farm, it's out in the middle of fucking no man's land. So that's how I came across this ghost. So most of this information is on their website. If you just search the Bell Witch haunting or whatever, the website will be like the very first thing that pops up, and they have a lot of information about it. And yes, you can still visit this today. So John Bell is a farmer from North Carolina, and along with his wife and children, settled in northern Robertson County, Tennessee in 1804. This isn't recent in any matter. This is more than 200 years ago, just to let you know. Their farm consisted of 320 acres of rich farmland that laid along the Red River. They lived a quiet, peaceful life here for the first 13 years. They were members of the Red River Baptist Church, where John became a deacon. Random fact, I don't really know. The family grew and became somewhat prosperous, so they were very well known in the good old 1800s. And then in the late summer of 1817, something would happen that would change their lives forever. Some members of the family began seeing strange-looking animals around the property. Then late at night, they started hearing sounds that sounded like knocking on doors and outer walls of the house. Later, the sounds were being heard from inside of the house. Some sounds were almost like rats gnawing on their bedposts, chains being dragged around the house, or throughout the house too, stones being dropped on the wooden floors, and then gulping and choking sounds. That sounds fucking awful. So the family was terrified, but John decided to keep the problem to themselves for over a year. I couldn't imagine keeping a secret like that for a year, but since they were such a big family in their community and they're very well known, they didn't want it to like ruin their reputation and everything like that. So when things became intolerable, John confided in his neighbor, James Johnson. He invited Mr. and Mrs. Johnson to spend the night, and after several nights of witnessing these strange things, Mr. Johnson suggested that more people should be told, and a committee was formed and an investigation started. So it's not long before people were coming from miles around to hear and witness these unseen forces that were terrorizing the Bell home. Before long, this unseen force had gained enough strength that it now had a voice. When asked who or what it was, it gave different identities. It once stated that it was a witch of the neighbor woman named Kate Bates, who John had a bad relationship with over slave trades. Now this is 1800s, just to remind you. Bad time. This is what many people believed, and from then on, this unseen force was called Kate, the Bell's witch. It seemed that Kate had two main reasons for visiting the Bell home. The main one was to kill Bell John. For what reason, no one knows, because Kate never really gave a reason why. Whatever. But I'm assuming it's over the slave trades or something like that. If it even is Kate. The second reason was to stop John's youngest daughter, Betsy, from marrying a certain neighbor boy named Joshua Gardner. Over the next 3 years, Kate tormented members of the Bell family almost daily. Now, if a fucking ghost was terrorizing me, after like the first week, I would move the fuck out of there. I would not spend 3 years in a house daily being tormented by this Kate ghost. Awful. So John and his daughter Betsy were the ones who received the worst of the physical abuse. Betsy had her hair pulled, she was pinched, scratched, stuck with pins, and even beaten, while John Bell began suffering from spells of swelling of the throat and often had the feeling of a stick being stuck sideways in his throat. Oh God. Then came along the twitching and jerking of facial muscles. Kate would blast him with curses and hideous threats during these spells. As time went on, John Bell became weaker and weaker. Kate was becoming well known and drew large crowds of people. She seemed to be very intelligent of many things: the Bible, people's past and the future, and she could be in 2 places at the same time, miles apart from each other. Now, this just sounds like a demon, because demons are the ones who are going to know about like their past or their future, like toying with people's minds and stuff like that. Like a ghost is not going to know stuff like that. From like what I've researched, I've done a lot of research on this, but like demons are going to be the ones who drag stuff out from your personal past that a ghost would not personally even know. Kate finally accomplished her mission for coming to the Bell farm. On December 20th, 1820, John Bell had died. It was believed that he was poisoned by Kate, and Kate took the full credit for his death. And then in March of 1821, young Betsy broke off her engagement with Joshua Gardner. Kate then bid everyone farewell and promised to return in 7 years. Why 7 years? I don't know. She did return in 1828 for a few short weeks. During this visit, she came to the home of John Bell Jr. and had long talks with him about the past, the present, and the future. Kate said that there was a reason for John Bell's death. However, she never told the reason why she did it. After the second visit, she said the next return would be in 107 years. Again, why this number? I don't know. So that visit would be in 1935, but some believe that Kate never really left the area due to all of the strange things that has occurred in and around the town of Adams in the Bell Witch Cave over many years. So I did mention the Bell Witch Cave. Now there was a cave nearby on the property, and it's said that the Bell Witch ghost lived in there. The cave only became popular in more recent times though, not back in the 1800s. When I visited there, the family would use the cave as a fridge because it was always cool. It was like a nice 50 degrees down there. And around in that area, caves are usually used as a refrigerator because, you know, electricity wasn't really a thing in the 1800s, so they used caves. So going into the cave, you go through this very narrow opening, and then you're in this giant room. Like, it is massive, and you are underground, like very underground. And then you go through another little narrow tunnel. It's very small. You just have to watch your step and everything. And then there's also another giant opening. But then it gets narrow again, but it gets too small and too dangerous for anybody to go down deeper, and no one knows how long this cave goes on for. So there's a wet season for the cave where a stream will actually be going through the cave just because it's right next to the Red River. And then there's a dry season where obviously people can tour in there, and it's still wet down there. There's still a little bit of water, but it's dry enough for you to walk in there, and it's not as dangerous. So the cave has been known for some creepy hauntings as well. People will encounter Kate's voice and sometimes capture her in photos, or some things in photos. There are tons of encounters and experiences from previous owners as well. One of the owners, his name was Bill Eden, and he was the owner in like the 70s. And Eden was probably the owner that made this cave the most popular. He didn't advertise for it. All he did to the cave was just add lighting, but that was it. He didn't change anything about it. And he doesn't know how people ever hear about the place or really find it, because again, he's not advertising for people to come on his property. He was just a farmer of the land, and he just owned it. But when people would come by and they wanted to hear about all the hauntings and see the cave itself, he wouldn't deny, he would just give them a tour. Present-day owners of the Bell Witch Cave and the piece of the old Bell Farm was made so famous by Bill Eden. The owners now today are Chris and Walter Kirby. Walter is a tobacco farmer, and Chris manages to stay busy managing the keep up and offering tours of the cave. In the summer months, this task is more than a full-time job. They are an older couple, and that was like one thing when we were driving out there. It was just all tobacco farms, which is, it might be normal to some people. It was just so weird to see because I'm so used to seeing corn and soy and cows, not tobacco farms, but that's what they did. And when I was there, Chris was giving the tour, and then later on, their granddaughter that they're raising, I don't know her name, I don't know if it's going to say it in here, but she gave the tour of the cabin. They did some more improvements on the cave, which included new lightings, new electrical systems, improved the path of the cave, wooden walkways to get to like the trail and everything, which, oh my god, trying to get to the cave, it is pretty sketchy. So it wasn't long after the Kirbys moved to the farm and began conducting tours in the cave before they realized things were not quite right on the property. They began to notice first that there were strange noises that didn't have an easy explanation. We've heard them in the cave, we've heard them in the house, Chris has said on occasion. I feel if there's any place that would be haunted, it's this place here. First of all, it got the legend of being haunted. There's an Indian burial mound right above the mouth of the cave on the bluff. And the previous owner of the cave died in our bedroom. I didn't know that! Oh, God. But okay, yes. So, in the cave and above the cave is an Indian burial ground. Why do all crazy haunted stories, why do they even exist? It's most likely because they're on an Indian burial ground and they're pissing off the fucking dead. Leave them the fuck alone and we'll be fine. So one day, Chris and her dog were leading a tour of the cave for a group of visitors. She was just opening the steel gate that leads inside when she heard a strange noise, the same sort of sound described by Bill Eden in one of his tour groups years before. It sounded like a raspy breathing sound, she said, like someone couldn't get their breath. It only lasted for a minute and then it was gone. So pretty much they just continue with the tour. So they're in the first room, went down the narrow passage, and they're in the second room. Here, as a tradition in the Bell Witch Cave tours, Chris begins telling stories of the witch, the haunting, and the strange incidences of the farm, and that's what she did with us too. As to talking, the dog suddenly reacted to something that no one else could see. The hair on the animal's back stood up and she began to show her teeth and started growling. The tour group asked what was wrong with the dog, but Chris had no idea. She was finally able to calm the dog down, and then the animal began whining and tucking her tail in between her legs. She cowered back against Chris, and at the same moment the flashlight in Chris's hand suddenly went out. Fuck no, get the fuck out. So she guessed that it was just the battery at first, but then a lady's video camera stopped working as well. We were all standing there in the dark, and I'll tell you, I was ready to get out of there and everyone else was too. Chris has also reported strange apparitions that had been seen in the cave by visitors and staff members alike. Some of these shapes are misty and fog-like, and sometimes appearing in different parts of the cave, only to vanish when approached. She also recalled another time of the image they had seen. It looked like heat waves that were coming off of the highway in the summertime. She explained, it's like you can see them out of the corner of your eye and then they're gone. One of the ongoing traditions, or legends, if you will, of the Bell Witch Cave involves the removal of any sort of artifact from the premises. It could be rocks or anything found inside of the cave. Some believe that perhaps the energy of the area is embedded in some way within their actual makeup of the place, and by removing a portion of the cave, you are inviting the phenomena that occurs here to travel with you. Others are not so scientific. They believe that the spirit of the witch will just follow anyone that removes something from the cave. It is likely that this tradition got started a number of years ago when the remains of a young Native American woman was discovered by men doing construction work on one of the local roads. Because it is well known that the former Bell Farm contains a burial mound, it was requested that the bones of the Indian woman be entombed within the Bell Witch Cave. The remains were laid out on the first room of the cave in a shallow indention that was then lined with limestone slabs. Unfortunately, they did not remain there for long. That's the one that I've seen. I have seen where they laid there. Okay. That makes sense. I mean, she was a very young woman. Like, it was a child could fit in there, and it's very sad. But yeah, that's what the lady was saying. I didn't know where the remains came from, but the bones didn't last there very long. Somebody stole them, and I hope they're being haunted for it. So a short time later, trespassers into the cave made off with the bones, but according to local lore, not without a price. Gossip in the community has it that each of the persons who removed one of the relics suffered a series of misfortunes, accidents, and injuries within days of the theft. For this reason, it has come to believe that it is bad luck to remove anything at all from the cave. Over the last several years, I have received a number of accounts from people who claim to have taken away stones from the Bell Witch Cave, only to then experience not only bad luck, but strange happenings in their previous unhaunted homes. Chris Kirby has assured me that she has received a number of packages in the mail over the year that have contained stones and rocks that were removed from the cave. They believe that mailing them back to the cave, they might alleviate their problems. Since the late 1970s, the Bell Witch Cave has been a destination point for ghost hunters, curiosity seekers, paranormal enthusiasts, blah 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 blah. Yes. Strange phenomena has been reported on this property for centuries, dating all the way back to time the Bell family in the late 1810s and 1820s. Weird events continue to this day, and anyone with interest of the supernatural is encouraged to make their way to the small town of Adams, Tennessee. That's where it's at. Then they give you directions, pretty much. So tours are open to the cave from May 1st to October 31st, and they're closed on Tuesdays or in case of flooding, normal stuff. And they're open 10 a.m. and the last tour is at 5 p.m. So yes. So when I was there, our tour did the cave first, and it was like a hot, when did we go? It was in July. It was just my mom, my dad, and myself. My brother had 50 camps to go on to, I really don't know. So it's just us. So when we got there, we went to the cave first. Nothing happened. It was like a really good, nice, hot 90s day, and then we went to the cave and it's like 40 degrees cooler in there. Like, it was a fridge. You needed a jacket in there almost, but it felt so nice. So Chris gave us the tour, and she's kind of hard of hearing, so if you do talk to her, you have to speak up. So she doesn't really hear the strange noises so much anymore. The first part, the huge big opening, we were talking about like people there. She encouraged photographs. She's like, take as many as you can, because people will actually email her later if they found anything like creepy, like a figure. I'm gonna creep myself out just talking about this because I've seen those pictures, but like a figure, a dark thing standing behind someone, like just a random stranger that they don't know. I did get a weird photo. I see it. I don't think anybody else sees it. I'm free. I have goosebumps right now because I'm like talking about this. It's also really cold in here. I wasn't so much like, I wasn't freaked out in the cave. It was just really interesting because I love caves. I never really go in them very often. I have chills right now. I didn't take anything from the cave either. After that warning, I'm like, I'll believe ya, it's fine. I did take one picture, and it was kind of like people, it's kind of like a little wishing well on like one of the narrow walls. And I took a picture in there, and it looks like there's this little tiny girl back in there, like blonde, she had bangs. I see it. If I can find the picture, I'll post it up here. That's the only thing I got. I took pictures off of my old phone when I had it too. And then another one was just, I was using my phone as like a flashlight, and I just had like a few random photos that I didn't take because I was using the flashlight, and I was just trying to like get in the narrow pathways because it's very narrow. You had to really watch your step, and there were a lot of spiders. I remember that. If you're afraid of spiders, I'm sorry if you go. But that was kind of like really the only strange thing. But yeah, in the second big room or whatever, she was telling like all the crazy things that have happened. So I don't know when the cabin was knocked down, but I believed that if they knocked down the cabin, then all the hauntings would stop. But obviously that didn't happen. So there were a lot of photos taken of that time, a lot of documentation, so they built a replica of it, and all the furnishings, like the beds, for example. I don't remember how they were made. They didn't have they did have mattresses. It was like the mattress box underneath the mattress. It was just like these huge wraps. I really don't know how to explain it, but it looked comfortable as fuck. But when you get into the cabin, it's a weird layout. Like there's a middle part that you can just see straight through, and then I think to the left were the bedrooms, and they had fucking mannequins in there, and it scared the living shit out of me because I didn't think they would actually have mannequins in there acting like, oh, I'm sleeping in the bed, but hey, this is probably where John Bell died, you know, whatever. So to the left, I'm pretty sure were the bedrooms, maybe, I don't remember, and then maybe to the right or somewhere in the back was the kitchen. And it's like all the bowls and everything, they're like wood. It was so cool to see, like, just for the 1800s as like historic point, it was really cool to see that. And then there was an upstairs. Now remind you, it was like 80 to 90 degrees that day, and there were a lot of wasps upstairs. But the granddaughter gave the tour, but there was like a recorded thing that she would play, so like she didn't have to talk like the whole entire time. They already had everything pre-recorded to tell all the history and stuff like that. So they have like sound effects of like what it would sound like. I was just like, but we're sitting upstairs, and I think there were more fucking mannequins up there, and we're sweating our ass up there, and there were bees and there were wasps everywhere, and I'm just like, I can't be up here anymore. But there, like, nothing really strange happened there. I just didn't want to be there because I was already freaked out because there were bees, and I hate bees so much with passion. But I asked the granddaughter if she has ever like heard or seen anything strange happening, because I wanted to hear stuff for her. But the only strange things that she would really hear are footsteps, and then in the kitchen she would hear like plates and bowls being dropped, but when she would go in there, nothing had moved. It's just kind of like, I think it's the family. Oh, it's freaky. There have been several movies that have been made off of this witch haunting. The Blair Witch Project. Whenever the old one was first, the original one, I guess, was first made, it was, I think they pulled stories from that, but it wasn't hardcore just based off of just the Bell Witch. It just kind of played off of it. Then the Bell Witch Haunting, which was released in 1999, The American Haunting in 2005, The Bell Witch, the movie in 2007, and then The Bell Witch Haunting in 2013, which is the one that I've seen, which is the whole reason why I wanted to go out and see it. I definitely highly recommend going to visit May throughout October 31st, and they have, it's like 10 a.m. through 5. You can call ahead just in case. But their website is bellwitchcave.com. They have a whole bunch of information about it. No pets, no alcohol, no profanities, no video cameras allowed anymore, I guess, unless you get special permission. And then no visitors under the age of 18 without parents' consent. But you can also do tubing and kayaking if you want as well with the haunted tour. But yeah, the tour was like $8 maybe. It's not very expensive. It's very interesting to hear. And I highly recommend go checking it out if you are ever in Nashville. Also, if you ever travel to Nashville or like stay in Nashville, make sure you're 21 when you go, because after 9 p.m. you can't do jack diddly shit. I was 20 at the time, and I was with both of my parents, and I couldn't go into any bars, couldn't go into any karaoke, anything that had alcohol in it. So pretty much like went to a candy store and went back to the hotel by like 9 p.m. It sucked. So make sure you're 21 when you go, if you want to experience like the heart of Nashville. There's a lot of bridal showers going on, like you'll see them everywhere. There's a lot of people performing on the streets too. It's Nashville. It's big. There's a lot of music. If you don't even like country, because I'm not huge on country, but like just people musically talented, and they're just feeling it and they're going for it, and it's just amazing. So that is it for this video. I hope all of you have a great Thanksgiving. Have a great weekend, have a great Thirsty Thursday, whatever you're doing. Just have a happy day. That's all. Please hit the subscribe button below, wherever it's at. Give this video a like. Give me a comment if you've ever been there, or if you guys want me to go see something local in the Midwest, preferably. Thank you guys so much for watching. Bye!